Hello guys, and welcome to the Hands-on Medicine. So today's subject is the action potential. So let's get started right now. So, like I said many times, the membrane is polarized. It's negative inside relative to the outside, which is positive. So what is this action potential? Because I talked about resting membrane potential and all that, so we don't need to go through it again. It's a depolarization of this membrane. What does it mean? It means if you have positive charge outside and inside, it just reverses. You have positive charge inside and negative charge outside. As simple as that. So how does this happen? Not very complicated. So let me explain something now. For the nerve cell, for example, let's write this membrane potential. It's at minus 70 millivolt at rest. And the threshold potential is at minus 55 millivolt. Not millimeter, millivolt. So this is this threshold. So what does it mean, the threshold potential? What's the threshold potential? It's not very complicated. I explained that last time. Let's go through it anymore. So we say it was minus 70 millivolt, the resting membrane potential. Why? You have potassium channels, sodium channels, chloride channels, and some sodium channels, but we never talk about that in the books, etc. We just mention it, but you will understand what I'm talking about. And you have sodium voltage gated sodium channels, okay? So this is what will be important to remember them. The conductance of potassium is high. The conductance of chloride is high. And the conductance of sodium is very low. So if you use the Goldman equation, let's say you used it, you would reach a value of minus 70 millivolt. I explained that in the last class. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, just watch it. So, what happens during the action potential? During the action potential, you have the depolarization of the membrane that will come, like one nerve will excite another nerve, for example. Or you have the excitation of the muscles, of the cardiac muscles or the skeletal muscles, for example. How does it happen? You have the SA node in the heart that will fire by itself. I will do a lecture about that, don't worry, just to explain. And you have an electrical syncytium inside the cardiac muscles and the cardiac tissue. The heart is made just of muscles, you have to remember that. It's not like the other organs, just muscles. And you have one muscle here, and you have a gap junction here, and another muscle here, for example. And here it's open too. And you have the depolarization that come, like sodium, that will come inside and depolarize itself. Remember that the sodium is positively charged. If it comes inside, it will make this more positive. So sodium come here, it depolarizes this muscle, it comes here, depolarizes this muscle. So that's why we call it a syncytium. They talk to each other, they depolarize each other. That's how the cardiac contraction is homogenic. It comes at the same time. Because if it wasn't homogenic, like in ischemia you have some ventricular cells that died because of hypoxia, it will make some problems in this propagation of the electrical depolarization. But let's not go into those kind of details now. So let's come back to our nerves. So let's say that you have sodium that comes. I will explain from where it comes. Don't worry, but after, let me explain that first. It comes here, and it increases this membrane potential from minus 70 to minus 50, minus 60 millivolt. Let's start with that. So let's say 60 is here, minus 70, minus 60. Boom, like this. What does it? What's happening here? Nothing, because it didn't reach the threshold, so there is no action potential. The action potential is all or none. Either it reaches this threshold and you have the action potential, either it doesn't reach it, you can come into here, and it die off, and it doesn't make the action potential. So you have to reach this threshold. Why do you have to reach this threshold? That's very simple. I will leave this like this. So when you reach the threshold, remember those sodium voltage gated channels. When you reach the threshold here, they start to open. They have two gates. Don't need to go into those details, but anyway, you have an activation gate and inactivation gates. And one is closed, one is open. The inside is open and outside is closed. But when you get to minus 55 millivolts, this happens. This one that was open inside, it begins to close, and this one outside begins to open, like this. It goes very fast, and this is almost closed, and this is open, and boom, you have a lot of sodium that comes in. That's why we say this is the fast channel. Those fast sodium channels, this happens very fast. So they open a little bit like this, blah blah blah. Let's say they open. They got closed. They open like this. Now they're inactivated. But before they got inactivated, they depolarized the cell until 0 millivolt, for example. It could go normally until the equilibrium potential plus 65 millivolt, but it doesn't because this happens very fast. So they depolarize until 0 millivolt, and here the conductance of sodium is very, very high. Then the conductance of sodium decrease. Like if we have to draw the conductance of sodium, it will go like this. And the conductance of potassium would go like this. No, this is too much. Like this. Voila. So what happens here? The conductance of sodium is this one, and for potassium is this one. If it's increased here, we get this depolarization. This is the phase here. From here to here, it's like it's here to here. Then it goes back to the equilibrium potential of the resting moment potential, and the conductance of potassium here is increased, and the one of sodium is decreased. So you get back to the potential that you had initially. And that's how it goes. It's inactivated, and in this period, we say it's refractory period. What does it mean, refractory period? You have these sodium channels in this state. So how do you want the sodium to come from the outside to depolarize the cell again? It's not possible. Even if you excite it again, let's say it came back to this stage, you can't have another action potential. It's not possible. Because you have to get back to the resting membrane potential for those channels to come back to their initial stage. This one. So they will open again, this one will open again, and this one will close again. But even if you excite the cell as much as you want, and you reach even more than threshold again, it will not work because this voltage gated channel, they're inactivated here. Inactivated. You can't activate them. So you are blocked. And this is what happens during the action potential. You have this depolarization, and you excite one cell, that will excite another, that will excite another, that will excite another. It's quite simple to be honest with you. And let's give you an example that you can visualize, so it will be more simple for you when you will see it. I will leave it like this. Let's say that you have a neuron here with a nucleus here. Up. This is an axon, and this is an axon terminal. And you have another nerve here. Same shit. Okay? Here you have vesicles. They contain neurotransmitter. For example, acetylcholine, glutamate, norepinephrine, serotonin, for example. But you have to know there is dopaminergic nerves and cholinergic nerves. You don't have all of them at once, even dopamine anyway. But that's not important. They are excitatory neurotransmitters. That's what I want you to get right now. And you have, let's say, another nerve here. I will not draw it, all of it. And you have here glycine or GABA. Those ones are inhibitory neurotransmitters. So what happens here? Glycine, yeah, should write better. I will take back this drawing now. So you have exactly the same thing. You have this threshold at minus 55, and you have those nerves before. When you release one vesicle that contains an excitatory neurotransmitter, for example, you have glutamate here. Here you have, like, for example, a ligand-gated channel for glutamate. It comes here, it binds, it opens. You have, for example, sodium that comes inside. But, for example, you have just one vesicle. It will give a potential that is very, very small. It will come from minus 70 to minus 69.5 millivolt, for example. It will go like this, it will die off, for example. Then, you have another excitatory cells. Let's say you have a lot of others. I will not draw all of them. Let's say you have another excitatory here, another inhibitory or excitatory. We'll see after. This one, let's say this one fires at the same time with this one, or just after. I will tell you the difference after. And when they fire at the same time, it goes from minus 70 to minus 60, let's say. This is better, but it is still not threshold. So what happens? We call this excitatory post-synaptic potential. This is the potential that is created when just one glutamate, for example, comes and binds to its channel to excite the next cell. So you need a lot of those excitatory post-synaptic potential. Because they're too small. So you need a lot of those. And in your brain, spinal cord, peripheral nerve, cranial nerves, etc., you have a lot of nerves, billions, millions of nerves, billions of nerves. There is a lot of nerves and connections. So you don't have just one nerve that excites the other. So you have a lot of nerves that communicate between them. And this is the way they communicate. So when you have enough excitatory postsynaptic potential, and I will give you an example so you will remember it. If you have one neurotransmitter that comes here from one vesicle, we call this a quanta. A quanta is one vesicle that contains like 10,000 molecules of glutamate or acetylcholine. This is for you to remember. In UCML, they ask this. Anyway, one quanta, it makes a difference of plus 0.5 millivolt. That's it. This is a minimal potential. This is very small. So you need a lot of those vesicles that will release their molecule of glutamate. A lot. And when you get enough of them, you reach the threshold. When you reach the threshold, what happens? This voltage gated sodium channel, they open. boom, you have the action potential. And then they close because they're in inactivated state. They reach it they're fast, and they reach it very fast. And then the conductance of potassium, it increases, and it comes back to minus 70. In the cardiac muscle, it's even hyperpolarized. It goes back to minus 90 millivolt, and then it comes back to minus 70. Just if you heard the word hyperpolarization, that's what happens. The conductance of potassium increases too much, and it reaches its equilibrium potential, which is minus 90 millivolts, and you know that. So this is the depolarization. This is the repolarization, because it comes back to the initial value, and this is hyperpolarization. And this is the refractory period. I talked about it earlier. This is the period where the voltage-gated sodium channels, they're inactivated. And you can't excite the cell again, even if you try and pour a lot of sodium inside, it will not change. So you will not have an action potential again that will go like this or something, because the voltage-gated channel, they closed. I know I said this earlier, but I have to say it again. So this is what happened. And you have the opposite. You have the inhibitory post-synaptic potential. This is the opposite. This is this glycine of this GABA. You have a GABA channel here, ligand-gated. And you have chloride that comes in. If chloride comes in, the equilibrium potential is minus 90 millivolts, 90 or 95. I always forget. Doesn't matter. And it inhibits the cell. The cell is inhibited and it doesn't fire. You know when it fires here? You have like axon Hilcock here, and it's full of sodium channels. So when you have those excitatory postsynaptic potential that comes and reach threshold, you have a lot of sodium that comes here. When the sodium comes here, it opens the ones that are after. It opens this one, this one, this one, this one, until it reaches here. When it reaches here, there is a calcium channel. This calcium channel opens and releases those vesicles. You have synaptobrymin, synapsin, and lots of peripheral proteins there. I will make a lecture about that, but just so you get the picture. And the vesicle, it comes off, and then the neurotransmitter is transmitted to the other nerves, and it excites the other. If it comes from here, it will be the opposite, it will be inhibited. That's how you inhibit or you excite another nerve. That's it. That was the action potential. It was not very complicated. This is the dendrites, by the way. I didn't say that. This is the ones where you find those channels, where they open to depolarize the cell. Other details, this is the soma, here. This is the nucleus. And here you have microtubules. Because those vesicles, how you can make those neurotransmitters? They're made from the nucleus, and they're transported by transport protein, kinesin and dynein. It's anterograde. It goes from here to here. And that's how you make the vesicles. And like I said, I can make like a lecture about that. And another detail, the depolarization is orthodromic. Orthodromic. It goes like this. Like it starts here and it goes in this direction. It doesn't comes back. For example, like if you excite the cell here, let's erase that. So if you excite the cell here, this is done just experimentally. Like the scientists, they do this, but it never happens inside the body. If you excite the cell here, the depolarization will go this way and this way. When it goes this way, toward the axon terminal, here is the soma. We say it's orthodromic. When it goes this way, we say it's antidromic. Antidromic. Usually it never happens because the depolarization, they come from here, like this, and it goes just this way. Depolarize here and it goes this way. It goes just orthodromically. Just experimentally, we use this. It's pointless. You have spatial summation and temporal summation. What does it mean? Let's draw this again. Threshold. And you have this nerve here, and you have an excitatory nerve here, and another one here. We simplify, there's billions of them, do you remember? Anyway, not very good, but we don't care. So if you have temporal summation, what it is? It means that this one fires, and this one fires after. Which means that it's minus 70. Here this one fires, it goes up. It begins to go down. But this one fires just after. Like we talk in fractions of seconds. And they will summate. Boom, this one will come after, but it will go up. And up and up and up until minus 55 if you have a lot of them. This is the temporal summation. Another situation. You have the spatial summation. In spatial summation, they just fire at the same time. So instead of doing like this, it goes like this. That's very damp, but you need to know that. So I told you. So that's it for today. So next time I will talk about the myelin and the conduction velocity. You have a lot of diseases where the conduction is impaired, and when it's impaired you have paresthesias, for example, and you have a lot of symptoms, and so you need to understand the role of myelin in the conduction, while some nerves are to be conducted more fast than other nerves. That will be the point of the next lecture. I will not talk about it now. So I hope you understood what's the induction potential. I think it's not so complicated. If you need more details you can ask me on the comments, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye. Thank you.